Hello and welcome to nkaizu's Introduction to Econometrics Theory course. This is the first lecture of the foundation tier entitled Using Mathematics to Get a Straight Line of Best Fit. So first let's imagine a situation we have some data. Looking at the graph, one might reasonably ask what is the best straight line to fit this data. One simple solution would be to grab a ruler and line it up so that roughly half the points are above and roughly half below, and there, voila, you have your straight line. This looks pretty good, and clearly our red line is superior to the blue line. Why? Because it seems to fit the data better. But what about now? Suddenly it's not obvious which is better, the red or the blue. Rather than just using one's eyes, we would instead try to be a bit more rigorous in finding the best fitting straight line. Therefore, econometrics is about the mathematical method of coming up with this straight line of best fit. The fancy maths name for this is linear regression. Visually, the process is you take some data, and then you do linear regression to get your regression line, or in layman's language, your straight line of best fit. Why is it called linear regression? Well, the linear bit refers to the fact that it's a straight line, and the regression bit refers to the idea of going from lots of information and all this data to a simple line. It turns out that for reasons that will soon become clear, one of our favorite methods for coming up with a straight line of best fit, or one of our favorite linear regression methods, is called the ordinary least squares method. This is often abbreviated to OLS for short. Ultimately, this entire econometrics course is about asking three big questions. The first is, why is linear regression useful? The second is, why is OLS, which stands for ordinary least squares, remember, usually our favorite method of linear regression? I.e., why do we prefer it to the other methods of getting a straight line of best fit, including, if you were to be flippant, grabbing a ruler and just guessing? And finally, what happens if one of our assumptions about the population doesn't hold? Now, we're just about to go into a bit of the intuition about the answers to these three questions, but a quick note. If you're at home taking notes, that's great, but in general you shouldn't need to. Attached to the videos that need them, there are note takers, which you should fill in as you watch the videos. There isn't one for this video in case you're wondering, but I'll make sure to give you a heads up when you should be filling something in. Right, so onward to the first question. Why is linear regression useful? The short answer is that it allows us to test our economic hypotheses. So suppose we think a relationship between two variables follows the blue line, our hypothesis. Then, as diligent economists, we collect some data. Just eyeballing the graph, it looks like the hypothesis line is a bit off. But right now we're comparing apples to oranges. Thus it's useful to do linear regression on the data and get our regression line, i.e. the red one. Now we can compare the red line and the blue line, i.e. the regression line and the hypothesized line, and basically test to see if they are close enough. This is called hypothesis testing. Of course, we won't be satisfied, being good econometricians, to just look at the graph. We'll need to do a lot of maths, but that's basically the intuition of it. The second question is, why do we usually like using OLS? The simplistic answer is that it gives us a good straight line of best fit, where on average it's correct, i.e. there is data evenly distributed above and below the line, and secondly that if the line is off, i.e. a data point isn't sitting exactly on it, then that data point isn't too far away. Again, in practice this involves a lot more maths, but this is a pretty good approximation of what we like about OLS. Finally, what happens if one of our assumptions about the population doesn't hold? Now you might justifiably be confused and say, what assumptions, what population? Basically it turns out that OLS is our favorite, but only under pretty strict assumptions about the world and the data it comes from. A lot of econometrics, therefore, is about figuring out what to do when these strict assumptions don't hold, and whether we can patch up our OLS line to still work reasonably well. That's it for our first video lecture. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.